Chapter 6.2 Forming Verb Tenses. Today we're going to learn about different verb forms. Action can occur in the present tense, past tense, and future tense. Essentially, verb forms are going to identify the time in which an action takes place. The first thing we're going to look at is the simple tense. Simple tense shows actions that occur on a regular basis. The chart below is different examples of the present tense form of the verb travel. Notice, I travel will be showing an action that takes place. You travel, or he travels. Look at the example below. I travel abroad. I travel abroad is showing an action that is taking place in the present tense. We can also have action that takes place in the past. The simple tense past verb forms are going to show actions that regularly occur in the past. Last April, I traveled abroad. Notice in this example, traveled is in the past tense form, has the ending of ed, therefore it is a regular verb. Different forms of the past tense travel are shown above. Action can also be taking place in the future. The simple tense verb form of future will also have a helping verb in it. Notice, for each different example, the helping verb will or shall is included in the sentence. This demonstrates that an action will take place in the future. Notice that the verb form of travel is in the present form. The difference between the present form and the future form is the helping verb will. Check out the example below. I will travel abroad during spring break. The verb is travel in the present form with the helping verb which demonstrates that the action will take place in the future. I will travel abroad during spring break. In addition to the simple form, we also have the perfect form. The difference between simple and perfect is the amount in which an action takes place. Like we stated before, simple verbs are demonstrating action that regularly occurs. The perfect form is going to show action that doesn't take place all of the time and that has an irregular amount of action. The simple difference between the two is that the simple version is just going to have the base verb, I paint pictures, whereas the perfect version is also going to include a helping verb. I have painted pictures before. Notice, I have, we have the helping verb with painted. Just like simple verbs, perfect verbs also have three tenses: present, past, and future. Notice, we are using the same verb form traveled. We have the present perfect form of traveled. Traveled is in the past tense form. In addition, it has the helping verb have. I have traveled. We have traveled. Look at the example below. Bob has traveled to over 300 different countries in the past 5 years. Traveled in the past tense with the helping verb has makes up the present perfect. We can also have a past perfect. Notice that the helping verb has now changed, although the past tense form of the verb travel is still used. Instead of have, now we have had. I had traveled. You had traveled. Notice the example below. Bob had traveled to Mexico before he visited Brazil. Bob had traveled. Past tense version of traveled with the helping verb had creates the past perfect. Lastly, we have the future perfect. Once again, notice that the verb tense is always going to be used in the past tense form for the verb traveled. But with adding the helping verb will have, we create the perfect tense. Look at the example. Sometime next year, I will have traveled South America. Traveled, past tense form with the helping verbs will have. The only difference is going to be the helping verb. In addition, the verb is always going to be in the past tense. The last form is called the progressive form. The progressive form shows actions that are currently taking place. Just like the perfect and simple form, The progressive form can also take place in the present, past, and future. Look at the examples presented. The present progressive, the cake is baking slowly. This example is showing that the cake is actually baking at this time, with the helping verb is baking. Baking, ending in ing. The past progressive, the trees were waving back and forth. Notice the verb waving and the helping verb were. Progressive forms are always going to end in ing. And then we have the future progressive. The children will be laughing. Will be with laughing. Lastly, let's take a look at some different examples. Let's look at the first example. Follow my cursor. Ernest Hemingway wrote The Old Man and the Sea. Wrote is the verb. Wrote is an irregular verb form of the past tense for the verb write. Therefore, we have the simple past tense of the verb wrote. Next example. Every year the school council elects new members. Elects is in the simple form because we do not have a helping verb with it. This is an example of a simple present verb. Take a look at the next example. The Speaker of the House will finish her term in May of 1998. Notice in this case we do have a helping verb with the verb finish. Will finish her term in May of 1998. Next, we have the sociologist is examining the effects that racial discrimination has on society. The sociologist is examining the effects that racial discrimination has on society. Examining is our verb. Is the helping verb. Notice examining is ending in ing. We have a present tense form of the progressive verb of examine. Lastly, the explorer was explaining the latest discovery in Egypt when protests began on streets. Verb form for explain, ending in ing, showing that this is in the progressive tense, or the progressive form, with the helping verb was explaining is the past progressive form.